Triangulation. The X. When you entangle with our kind in a romantic dynamic, it is very rare indeed if you don't find yourself hearing about our ex. Whether it's the ex-wife, the ex-boyfriend, or the ex-partner, the subject of the ex is one which will appear with considerable frequency. Indeed, you may not even meet this person, but you will feel that you know them almost as well as you know yourself, the amount of time that we spend talking about them to you. Recognize that the mention of the X is triangulation and is a method of asserting control over you and also over them, directly as against you, indirectly as against them. At the outset of your ensnarement, it is highly likely that we were already in a romantic relationship with somebody else. You may not initially be told about them. We may reference them because we utilize their existence as a magnifying factor to increase our opportunity to control you and draw fuel from you, and thus bind you to us. It might be that their existence is then referred to once you are ensnared, when we instinctively realize that you're not going to back away. Or we may even refer to them almost as an afterthought when we've disengaged from them and have made you the intimate partner primary source. Whether we tell you that we are married, or we keep the existence of a significant other until afterwards, and then we fudge precisely when we broke up with them, it's not a matter that we consider as especially relevant. We will utilize the existence of the X as and when we deem fit, and, if appropriate, dismiss their existence in order to assert control over you, and dismiss their existence to prevent it affecting our control over you. What matters is that the X is an appliance, a tool, by which we can control you and them, and thus you will repeatedly have mention made of them. During your golden period with us, be it when we have targeted you and you're in the seduction, or that we have embedded you, and thus this is when you're intimate partner secondary source, candidate intimate partner secondary source, or intimate partner primary source, our X will be painted well and truly black. They are the enemy, the hateful traitor and wretch that failed us. We will tell you how this person is a truly terrible person. The immediate X, or he or she who is about to become the X, is the person that is invariably spoken about the most, because they will most likely be coming up on our radar, either because we are still spending time with them, or if we've disengaged from them, that individual might be trying to contact us to get answers, etc., sort out finances, find out why on earth we treated them that way. And therefore, they will cause repeated Hoover triggers. And part of mentioning them to you is enabling us to assert control over them and you. Many other X's, however, may well make an appearance as well, especially if we want to portray ourselves as a superhero for enduring them, or a poor done-to martyr, dependent upon the relevant type of narcissist. The narcissist, in seeking to control you, uses the existence of the X and the perceived behavior of that X to control you. Your response will provide fuel and signal that you are coming under our control, both generally and, of course, in the moment. Therefore, reference is made to that X with the following labels. 1. The crazy bitch. She is wild, unpredictable, and clearly cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. We tried to help, to be understanding and make them see that there was something wrong with them, but despite our best endeavours, she just couldn't see it. She had no insight, and whatever we did was thrown back in our faces. Facade management. False compassion. Pity play. 2. Controlling ogre. He never let us do anything. Pity play. Always checking where we were, who we were with, what we had been doing. We felt like a tracking device had been placed on us, and everything we wanted to do was a battle beforehand. Pity play. 3. The addict. Whether it was drink, benzos, weed, expensive shopping habits, gambling, junk food, it didn't matter. This person had a terrible addiction, smearing, which of course we tried to help them. False angel, false compassion, and everything we wanted to do wouldn't help them. 4. Jealous lunatic. He was always accusing us of having affairs, projection and blame shifting, seeing other men, triangulation, flirting and being obsessed with the attention of others, smearing. 5. A narcissist. The ex was definitely one of these. The real narcissist might have read about it and therefore, through their narcissistic lens, sees that individual as a narcissist. Or they might have, the real narcissist was called it by the true victim and therefore commandeers the use of that to throw it back in the true victim's face. And this meant that he or she was an awful person to us. Oh, the stories we could tell you about this terrible condition, and indeed we will. Pity play, smearing. 6. Violent abuser. He or she would attack me. Pity play. I had to call the police so many times to deal with them. A passerby once had to rescue me after he started to punch me in the street. Exaggeration. I'm a big fellow, I can handle myself, but it was still unpleasant to have someone you love kick you in the balls. Pity play. 7. Obsessed. She just wouldn't give me any space to be myself, and even now, even though I've told her that it's over, she won't leave me alone. Grandiosity. Pity play. I don't mean to frighten you, false compassion, but she's probably stalking me at the moment. She just can't seem to accept that it is an end. Smearing. 8. Criminal. He was up to all manner of criminal enterprises. Smearing. Stealing cars, selling drugs, burglary, it was just too much. I don't know why he did all of this when I was earning enough money for the two of us, grandiosity, but he just kept going, and in the end it was too much when he tried to get me involved. 9. Adam's family. She was just odd. Her family had to be with us all the time. We moved in with them to save rent, but then we finally got somewhere of our own, and every time I got home from work, some member of her extended family would be there, and it was like there was always at least 3 of us in the relationship, and, well, I'm sure they were just a bit too loving and close, if you know what I mean. Smearing, triangulation. There are plenty more additional labours which I'm sure that you can add. The fact is, however, you will find we will talk about this person with daily regularity, treating you to the latest anecdote about this person's aberrations and anomalous behaviours. You receive a forensic examination of what this person said and did, as we recall it in all such detail that you can see it in all of your mind. This is our narcissism, allowing us to remember this detail in pin-sharp crikey vision for the purposes of controlling you. The harping on about the ex, of course, is done for several purposes. 1. In some instances, drawing sympathy from you, which is fuel over how we have been treated. 2. Appealing to your empathic traits to soothe us, help us and love us after this awful experience. Provision of fuel, binding you to us. 3. Appealing to your desire to outdo your previous competitor by showing that you are a far better partner than that person, and thus in turn we gain more benefits, fuel, control, etc. from your increased desire. 4. Making us look like a good person to have tried to help the ex, veneer and facade management. 5. Making us look like a decent person to have persevered, veneer and facade management. 6. To cause you to dislike the ex so that you will respond in a hostile manner should your paths cross with them. 7. To ensure the ex has no credibility if they attempt to go down the route of trying to warn you about us. 8. To create a ready excuse for any poor behaviour we might exhibit should the mask slip. I'm sorry, it's clear that I'm traumatised after how Kate treated me. 9. To draw fuel from you in terms of your sympathy, your anger, your support, your hatred of what that person has apparently done to us. 10. To support the smearing which we will have done as we prepare to disengage from that previous IPPS. Remember, all of this is done in a calculated and aware manner as a consequence of the behaviour of the greater or ultra, and is instinctive and unaware where lesser or mid-range. At first, you will actually be pleased to hear about these daily bulletins briefing against your former competitor, as that actually serves to quash any fears that you might have that we will go back to them, or that we might succumb to an approach by that person to win us back. The more you hear us pour scorn on them, the happier you tend to feel and the more secure you become. What you don't realise is that this is a manipulation. We will talk about them as we secure your allegiance to us, always reminding you of this spectre that promises to be the ghost at the feast. Once you've been embedded, then often we will cease to talk about them because we have effectively deleted them from our mind as a consequence of the embedded golden period we are now enjoying with you. However, if there is a reason for them to keep appearing in our sphere of influence, for instance, the ex keeps contacting us to understand why we disengage from them, to sort out the return of property, to attend to child contact arrangements, to address matters appertaining to a divorce, then we will of course keep mentioning them because we have to assert control over them and keep you under control because we perceive that their continued involvement might be a threat to our control of you. We actually have no interest in engaging with them because we don't need fuel from them, character traits or residual benefits. We're getting that from you, but they are threatening our control of both them and you, and therefore we have to respond. Sometimes that will mean that we will ignore them and smear them to you. Sometimes it means that we will dole out a malign hoover as against the ex alongside smearing them to you. Accordingly, the daily bulletins, smears, insults and so forth about the ex will follow this pattern. 1. Extensive mention as we start our seduction with you as the soon-to-be ex enters the final stages of devaluation and then disengagement. 2. Continued mention once you are embedded if the ex keeps appearing in our sphere of influence. 3. Mention effectively halts once the ex stays out of the way and the embedded golden period commences. There might be the occasional mention of the ex where they've just popped into our heads and our narcissism deems it not appropriate to hoover them, and instead we assert control over them by a slight smear of them to you. Reaching point 3, however, means you will have experienced plenty of discussion and observations about the ex, as everything has been picked over in minute detail. If there was a word cloud for this period of time between us, you and the ex would rival one another for primacy. Yet this frequent mention of the ex is not yet over. Once your devaluation as IPAPS begins, and it will, then the ex or other exes will start to be mentioned or mentioned again. But of course, all of the slurs, smears and insults will now have been wiped away, instinctively for lesser and mid-range, in a calculated fashion by greater or ultra, because now, since you're painted black, your ex or exes will be seen in a white light compared to your position. Accordingly, you will be compared and contrasted to this ex on a daily basis, and in the following ways, as they are referred to in some of the more descriptions. 1. The only one. She was the only one who truly understood me, and now I want her back. This is being done in order to make you jealous, to triangulate you, to make you feel insecure, to draw fuel from you, to assert control over you. 2. The super sex god. He was dynamite between the sheets. If only I could get that excitement back once again, compared to the damp squib that you are. Criticism. Triangulation. Insult. 3. Mum of the year. She's so good with the children. Far better than you, wicked stepmother. Of course, the children may well back this up, either because they truly think that, hardly a revelation, or they have been manipulated by us to think this way of you. 4. Domestic goddess. You know, she had this house shining and tidy, great dinners on the table, and always looked great. But look at you. You're a mess, you can't cook, and the house is a tip. What have I done choosing you? 5. Cash king. Boy, he worked hard, brought in good money and looked after me. What do you do? Nothing, or you've a poorly paid job compared to him. 6. The saint. She would never have treated me the way that you do. You conned me into going off with you, and you lured me away from a wonderful woman. I hate you for it. 7. Clean living. He looks after his body, eats properly, doesn't drink much, and look at the way you go on eating junk and smoking. You ate 1 burger in the last 6 months and smoked maybe 2 cigarettes a day, but it doesn't matter because of the black and white thinking. All of this exhibits triangulation, insult, revision of history, as now painted black, everything about you that was good is forgotten about, and you are treated and compared unfavourably to the ex, all designed because they're now painted white and you're painted black. Again, there were many more labels for the person who was once the devil incarnate, but is now back on the pedestal. To compound matters, when you try to point out how we labelled them and referred to all of the ex's awful behaviours, that threatens our control. We will deny it or fall back onto a different manipulation, and we will accuse you of making things up, being jealous, projecting your own behaviours and so forth, which will leave you hurt and utterly bewildered as to what is going on. You cannot understand how we are now praising the person that we once labelled an abuser. You cannot understand how we are now criticising you for the behaviours that we once praised. We will talk about going back to the ex, which will leave you dumbfounded when you point out that this person has done awful things, according to us. We will deny them, euphemize their impact, or refer to the fact that the ex has changed. Of course, this will then alert you to the fact that we've actually been engaging with them behind your back, which is often the case because we are now hoovering them in a benign way. If the ex is responding to our hoovers and is being seduced once again, then of course you know what is happening to you when we speak with them, don't you? Yes, that's right. We are giving you the labels we once gave to them as we talk about how you have conned us, how we were misled, how the new IPPS that is you actually told us lies about that former IPPS, and that we were taken in by them, i.e. it was not our fault. This harpy, this liar, this player pulled us away from you, and we're ever so sorry. Never our fault. Always someone else's. Triangulation is a major part of the narcissistic dynamic. It allows for two strong fuel lines. It causes parties to fight over us. It makes them work harder to keep us or draw us away when they perceive there is a threat. It is an excellent manipulation which delivers time and time again. I have come across this on repeated occasions in consultations where someone has been identified as a narcissist and they've gone off with someone else. And notwithstanding the fact that I have explained that this is a form of manipulation, that they will end up in devaluation, the spurned party still feels the need to fight and go to war against the other victim rather than the narcissist. Such is the misunderstanding of narcissism and the misleading effect of emotional thinking. Triangulation. It is one of the most common methods used with regard to the ex-partner. And it is unusual if you have not come across that. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.